All right, good morning and welcome to Sunday school. Hope things are going well. Sorry, I'm a tad bit tardy. I was talking in the hallway and lost track of time. I know some of you are probably surprised by that, some are not, but that's all right. So glad you can join us today for Sunday school as we dig into Proverbs. We're actually going to be wrapping up our study of Proverbs here in this week, and then next week we're going to dive into the book of Song of Solomon or a Song of Songs, depends how you want to say that. That'll be next week. We'll be diving into that and starting a new chapter in our study. Hope you're doing well. We are actually, if you don't know, we're actually going through our quarterlies here. These are the Explore the Bible quarterlies from Lifeway. We've been working our way through those. If you would like a copy, just let me know. Call the office, swing by, and while we're going through them, we have plenty here. After we finish the studies, we have a wonderful thing. We actually send them off to a ministry that takes them and gets them to people who need them, those people in other countries who don't have access to quarterlies or access to things. And so what we do with those old ones, we do that. So if you're watching this way later in the future, don't contact us. We don't have them. But if you're watching right now, you want to be a part of the study, we have these quarterlies at our church. So just call the church office, send an email, let us know how we can get that to you. We'd love to have you. We wanted to be able to let you follow along with us. So we are in the book of Proverbs. Proverbs 31 is kind of where we're at today. We're diving around that, and we're talking about finding honor. Finding honor in life. And so today, the chapter really focuses on the what we call the virtuous woman, or the woman of honor in Proverbs. It's kind of like the best of the best, what you should look for in a woman and what a woman should be, a Christian woman, a wise woman should be. But really, we all need to grasp a hold of the ideas in this chapter. Not that it's only for women, but it's for all of us. How we should live, how we should be, how we should act. All those things are an important thing, and especially with honors involved, and wisdom is involved. Wisdom affects your heart and your mind and every part of your body, and so how we live out is very important. So today we're really going to talk about finding honor. So really, first thing I want you to think about is this: how would your life be different if there was someone following you around all the time, watching what you do? The whole idea of Big Brother, right? Big Brother was watching. Would you be living your life different? I always use the illustration. If we had a magic way of recording your thoughts and everything you did during the day, and we could hook them up to a projector and play them back to your friends and family, would that be something you'd be excited to see, or something that you'd be horrified to be happening in front of you? And so some of us, that's a terrifying thing. I think all of us it is. How we live our life. Sometimes we think we have secret times or hidden times when no one's watching or no one knows. So it's really important that we stop and think about that. And really, even the thought that that person watching could be having us, could be trying to lead us in different ways and tell us how we should live our life. It can be scary to think about until you think about the way that, God is there. God is doing those things. God is that one who's watching everything we do. People around us are always watching what we do. You don't act or do things in isolation. They are everywhere and everything. So let me see. Checking some technical issues, make sure we're doing okay. Just got an update. I don't know what's going on. We got technology is fun. Just got an update that our men's group will be eating at 7 instead of 7:30 as it has been. So if you want to be a part of that, let me know. For some reason, some of my things aren't popping up here on my screen. So anyways, so hopefully you guys have enjoyed our study of Proverbs. Hopefully you're enjoying what's going on as we wrap this up. It's a lot of wise things. So hopefully you're all a bunch of wise guys now, right? Okay, so we're gonna dive into that, finding honor. So we have this idea of God, and God is always watching. God is always there. Other people are watching, those people are always there. How are you living your life? How are you living what you do? And that's something we all need to engage. So today we're gonna dive into chapter 31, like I said, which is the chapter of the virtuous woman. And the idea is really, how do we live our life? So if you're a guy, this stuff still applies to you. For one, it should be how you should be looking for a mate. If you're young, you're not married yet, you're dating, this is how you should be looking and filtering through and looking for people. If you are a married man, if you have daughters, this is how you should be looking to raise your daughters, to look for men, to be women like this. If you're a young lady, you need to be living your life this way. If you're a married lady, if you're an older lady, whoever you are, these are all principles that we can all live in our lives. Guys, you can live these principles too. Even though we're talking about a woman here, the virtuous wife, these are still things that you can live out in your day-to-day life. So you can't just say, "Oh, that doesn't apply to me because that's a woman and I'm not a woman. It's for a wife. I'm not a wife." No, it's not how it goes. You need to be living out these principles too. They're universal, and they're good for every one of us. So as we read along, I want you to kind of dig into that, grasp a hold of that. Don't get pulled away when it says she and her and wife. Don't let those words pull away from the wisdom of the book and the wisdom of this chapter as we read ahead. So we're going to be in Proverbs chapter 31, and we're going to jump ahead and pick up in verse 10. All right, so verse 10 is where we're starting this morning. We're going to do 10 through 12 first. We're going to break and do some talk about it. So please read along with me. We're in Proverbs chapter 31, verse 10 through 12. All right, so I'll read along here. It says this: "Who can find a wife of noble character? She is more precious than jewels. The heart of her husband trusts in her, and he will not lack anything good. She rewards him with good, not evil, all the days of her life." All right, so we have the opening picture. Who can find a wife of noble character? That idea that she is so precious. She's more precious than jewels, right? And that's a pretty big statement, because a lot of us can say that, but is that true? Do you really believe it? Someone of godly character is better than a new bass boat, a bigger house, a raise in your pay, a better job. When you start weighing it against things that we actually think about, how much do you value godly character, a noble person? How much do you put value into that? A lot of us wouldn't mind tricking somebody to make a few extra dollars. A lot of you guys wouldn't mind putting a few extra hours in at work to make some money and sacrifice that time with loved ones, or miss church opportunities because you're too busy with your sports or your activities or your other things. The idea of noble character is something that we should all value. Men, women, adults, children, everybody should seek to have noble character. That's what God calls us to. He calls us to love and not hate. He calls us to be truthful. Truth always, never deceiving. The command is not don't lie, it's do not bear false witness, which is like the idea of deception. Are you being deceptive in the way you treat things, the way you do things, the way you carry out business? Are you being deceptive in that way? Sometimes we think, oh, if I'm not lying, it's okay. No, God says, do not deceive. All right, and so that's the idea of a noble character. And a noble character is so valuable. If you've ever been like in business, or you've ever worked with someone, or you ever had to trust somebody, one of the amazing things is if they have a noble character, their character is spot on. It is so much easier to do business with them. It's so much easier if you can trust them. It's so much easier if you can acknowledge they're going to always treat you fair and do the right thing. And that's the beautiful part of this idea is, look at the value of a noble character, especially a wife of noble character and a husband of noble character, anyone of noble character. How much is that worth to you? Think about that. Do you want the guy selling you a car to be of noble character? All of us are going to say yes. Are you going to want the guy who builds your house or repairs your roof to be of noble character? Yes. But how much do you value that in yourself then? If that's what you want of other people, how are you living that out in your own life? Are you that noble person? Are you living out that noble character? See, valuing noble character is not just receiving it, but it's also living it out. So that's the challenge. The first part of this whole thing, will you live out that noble character? Will you be that person of noble character? Will you seek out a spouse of noble character? We talk about young people too many times. Parents like the idea of their kids dating. They think it's like a fun thing. Oh, I can't wait. They're so young and so cute. They're going to date so and so now. Yay. It's like, no, don't play around with dating. All right. Dating at a young age, we should be teaching our children to look for people of noble character, build friendships, build relationships. Don't just date for fun. That's not a wise thing to do. You need to see, because here's what happens is that you start dating for fun and it's a game and whatever until all of a sudden you give your heart to somebody and you've fallen in love with them. We're talking more about that in Song of Solomon's about love and how we can give ourselves away. And you can fall in love emotionally with someone who you should never be with, who is very destructive for you and not good for who you are. And it's important. So even from a young age, we should be teaching our family and our young ones to seek someone with noble character. We should also be living that out, being that example. Don't just say it. You need to live it. All right. That's the fascinating thing is a lot of daughters will look for husbands who resemble their father, who share some characteristics. So are you living out what you want your daughter to find? They're going to look for a husband who treats them like the husband treats his wife, their father treats the mother. Is that how do you want your daughter to find someone like you? Do you want your son to find someone like you? What do you want to find there? And so that's something to think about. We can spend the whole time talking about that, but as we go on, so basically laying out, Solomon saying, look, or the author here is saying, find a woman of noble character. It's better than jewels. It's better than having a bunch of money, because you can trust her. You can commit your heart to the matter. You find security there. There's nothing you can't go through with a spouse that you trust. And there's nothing that can destroy a marriage if the husband and wife are of noble character and can trust each other. Trust is that foundation. Trust is that vulnerability between each other and help each other out. That's something you need to seek in relationships, not just husband and wives, but business relationships too. Are you in business with someone who you can trust? Right? Do you trust them? Can you work with them? And if not, you're going to struggle. You're going to have issues. Friends, do you trust your friends? Do you have trustworthy friends? Right? Do you have friends who are going to be there? Sometimes no friend is better than an untrustworthy friend. Sometimes it's better to be alone than to walk in treacherous company. And I think, and Solomon talked about that early on in the book. Who you bringing in, you got to think wise about who you let into your life. And that's an important thing to dig into. But it comes back again. Do you trust the person? Do you let whoever you let in, you need to be able to trust. You need to be able to be open with them. And they have to have that commitment. That commitment needs to exist in all relationships. This is going to grow. So I love all the illustration here of the husband and wife combination, because they're in it. That's the idea of marriage. It's not just some institution that's been put together, but it's a time of two coming together and being one. They're going to trust each other. They're going to intertwine with each other. They're going to grow to each other. They're going to be changed together. They're going to go through a lot together. And so the idea of marriage then is this promise. Marriage is a vow, a promise that you're going to be together, you're going to take care of each other, and you're going to trust each other, be honest, be noble, all those things through everything together. That is God's plan. Now, we're sinful, we make mistakes, it breaks apart, it's not what God intended, but it's what happens. So we need to make sure we are living that. And not too often we're out there saying, look, my wife's not doing this, or my husband acts like this. We need to stop worrying about them and start being who God called us to be. He's calling you to be someone of noble character, right? You need to do your part. Are you trustworthy? Well, I don't care if your spouse, your business partner is not trustworthy. You got to start with you. Are you being trustworthy? Are you being honest? Are you being noble? Are you being that person of character? Because when you start living it out, God can use that to change other people's lives. Now, you don't need to be changing other people's lives. Let God move. You can speak wisdom and love in there, but let God move. All right. And that's the idea. We can't overvalue a godly character. It is so important, so important. You know, if you have nothing but godly character in your marriage, then you have more than most of the people in the world. Because there's plenty of marriages. I mean, just look at the tabloids, look whatever. How many rich billionaires, actor people are divorced? Their lives are falling apart. You know, they have it all. They have all this money, but yet it's just falling apart. Check it out there. All right. So speaking on godly marriages, like I kind of said some too. Something I want to point out. Here's the important part of being a godly marriage. All right. So there's kind of like this twofold to the most important relationships in your household. So if you're a married couple, you're a family. I'm kind of speaking to you right now. If those who aren't, this is a way you can pour into other people, or this information you can use to help shape your future. But this idea that in a godly marriage of noble character, there's two important things. First is you need to make sure that Jesus is the most important person in that relationship, in that household. He should be the focus of it all. Today we're talking about following the path of God. We're going to talk about this. But the idea that Jesus should be the center, God should be the center of it all, right? Like the sound nucleus there, or a center part. Great illustration, a center part. But that foundational piece. And when you start building your family upon that, you say, all right, this is the most important thing in our life, and we focus around this. And you know, how are we living to glorify God? We make Jesus the primary and most important person in our family, then it's a great place to start building. A lot of times people will build their family on like maybe a hobby or something, or, you know, I've seen, you know, racing families. We're a racing family, and everything they do revolves around racing and doing things like that. Or, you know, whatever your hobby may be, maybe sports, maybe where, you know, maybe it's camping in the summer. You guys live to camp or to do whatever. That becomes the center focus of your whole family. And so, you know, adults, this is so easy for us to get off track. It is so easy to get pulled away. And we got to make sure we stop and look at what is the center of our family? What is the foundation of our family? How are we living focus of family? Is it for godly things? Is it for God? Or is it for our hobbies and the other things? So that's the important part to look into. And if you don't know, just talk to your kids. They'll probably tell you what we're all about. Or just go look in your garage. What does all this stuff say on it? And the second thing is this: in a good, solid Christian family, the first person, most important person, would be Jesus. Second should be the relationship between the husband and wife. All right. This is the next most important part, because sometimes parents, one spouse will make the kids more important, will make someone else more important, make a friend more important. You've got to find that balance. The marriage is the man and the woman coming together to be one, the two to be one. That should be the focus of the godly marriage. Now, I'm saying should be, because it usually falls away. Different things pull us away, cause division. That should be the focus. You need to focus on one, Jesus Christ. The family needs to focus on Jesus Christ. Two, it needs to focus around the relationship between the man and the woman. That should be the next part. The husband and the wife should be growing in each other and learning to work with each other. Those are very important things. And everything else will fall into place after that. All right, so that was our quick talk about the Christian family. I know we didn't go too deep, but we need to keep moving on our study and not get sidetracked. So the next thing is this. So we're going to talk about the virtuous woman. So we're on verse 13 now. So hopefully you got your Bible still open. We're on verse 13 of chapter 31. If you would follow along with me, it goes this: she selects wool and flax and works with willing hands. She is like the merchant ships bringing her food from far away. She rises while it is still night and provides food for her household and portions for her family's servants. She evaluates a field and buys it. She plants a vineyard with her earnings. All right, so we kind of have a fascinating little turn here. So we see this idea that it goes from being a noble character, now it becomes to what is she actually doing? And sometimes we check out when these things happen. We're like, oh, well, I don't know what wool and flax. I don't sell wool and flax. I'm a stay-at-home mom, or I'm into computer programming. What does that have to do with selling wool and flax and working with my hands? Uh, don't get sidetracked here, right? Remember, this was written to a group of people thousands of years ago who were going through things, and we need to step back and we need to look at what the author was trying to communicate through this passage. What principles is he communicating to the audience who's reading it? All right, so don't get lost in things. So here's a fascinating one thing about. All right, so we talk about the virtuous woman, and these are some qualities that we need to look into, qualities and quantities of the way she works. It's important is to focus on the quality of what she's doing, and we can learn from that. All right. So the first thing is this: it talks about wool and flax. Now those were commodities that were sold and traded. They were things that benefited the family. And you see, she knew what was important, what could help her family. She knew the marketplace, basically. What can I do to help advance my family? And for some it may be, how can I take care of my family by, what am I buying? Sometimes I've met people who will only like wear designer clothes and buy designer clothes, even though like bankrupts their family. I had a relative who had to buy her daughter like the most expensive jeans. And that became to a detriment of her family because is spending a lot of money on these designer jeans when basically any jeans would work. I know I'm not that fashiony, but you don't have to spend so much. You don't have to buy the most expensive everything. You need to figure out what works for your family. What is good for your family? What is good for that group? What is good for your business? What is good for the way you are going to do things? You need to be wise about those things. All right. She selects the wool and flax, which means she looks into the commodities and says, what is best for my family? What is best for our needs? What is good quality? And what is it that's going to help our family? And what's going to help our relationship? And this needs to go across all of us. Are we evaluating what comes in? Is it quality? Is it what our family needs? Is it something a relationship needs? Or are we just bringing in whatever and doing whatever he finds best? We got to examine that. We got to know those things. Next he says she works with willing hands. She works willingly, not begrudgingly. That idea that she wants to do the work that is needed, right? That's not necessarily, going out and, hand washing the clothes. Is she willing to do what the family needs to make the next step? And that's a call to all of us. Every relationship, are you willing as a Christian to do the work needed to advance a relationship, to advance a group, to advance a business, to advance what God has called you to do, your family, your relationships? Are you willing to do the hard work involved? Are you willing to get your hands dirty? Are you willing to get into the muck and the mire, do those things? We got to make sure we are willing and not begrudgingly willing to do the work and not just complaining about it. Do all things with thanksgiving and without complaining. And too many times that happens to us. We just want to complain about everything. Just trust me, I'm a pastor. Everybody likes to complain. I get to hear some of that sometimes, and it's just like, I'm sorry. We can't all get it our way. We need to stop thinking about our way. Start thinking about what's best for our relationships, what's best for our community, what's best for our church, what's best for our family. That's going to draw them closer to Jesus. Remember, we said Jesus is the foundation. That's what should be our measure. What is best for our families, our relationships, to bring people closer to Christ, to grow in Christ? What is that? And that's the idea we need to think of. Next thing is this. It says she is like the merchant ships bringing her food from far away. This is the idea of seeking out resources, right? And okay, I'm not saying let's go find some ships because we're in Missouri. There's a Mississippi River. How do you see merchant ships there anymore? We don't. All right. Here's the picture. You got to think about it this way. Are you seeking out the resources needed? This talks about wisdom earlier. The sluggard is so lazy he can't take the food from his hand and bring it to his mouth. Talk about it earlier in Proverbs. But the same idea, are you willing to find the resources needed? Right? The resources to help, the resources to do. A lot of times people come to me and say, well, Pastor Mark, I don't know how to share Jesus with my friend. Well, how did you become a Christian? So you know how you became a Christian? Now just share that with them. If you know how you became a Christian, then now you have the wisdom to do it, or we'll get these complaints like, oh, well, I saw on YouTube, there was a video that said God is not good, how is that true? And then I'm like, really? You can't research it? You can't look deeper? We become lazy and we don't want to seek out wisdom. We don't want to seek out the resources we need to move ahead, right? God has blessed us with the ideas and the logic to study and to grow. Yes, I know some people have trouble learning. Find someone to teach you. There are resources out there. We're in an informational age, so there's nothing we should lack knowing how to do. Our problem is we go for the easy things. We go for the Facebook conspiracies that sound right in our head and seem right and are easiest for us. We just follow along with those things. Instead, we need to be seeking out the resources needed. We need to be seeking out the things that are going to help us. Look for those things. Look for the resources. Look for the things that are going to help our family to grow. Doing the hard work to get there, right? We need to be looking deep for those things. How committed are you? If you're really committed to Christ being the center, then you're going to do whatever it takes to draw your family closer to Him. If that means, traveling for something or getting involved in something or sacrificing something, is doing that hard work to do it. All right. Next thing, the godly woman is not idle or lazy. She rises when it's still night and provides food for her household, portion for her female servants. She does the hard work. She's not lazy. And Christians, we need to not be lazy. Now, that doesn't mean everyone has to get up at 4 a.m. to cook breakfast, but we need to stop being lazy. We've become complacent. We get into our seats and we're like, oh, well, I always sit here. I'm always on this committee. I always do that, or this is my little thing. And we become lazy and, it's someone else's job. They can handle it. No, church family, we need to be a part of what's happening. Those are relationships, you need to not be lazy. You need to do the hard work to grow that relationship. Or do the hard work of cutting that relationship loose if it's not God glorifying. That's what you got to do sometimes. If you're in a marriage relationship, you need to do the hard work to grow as a couple. And especially those who've been around for a while. I've been married 19 years. I have patterns I fall into. And if I don't try hard to break those patterns, I'm just going to stay in them. And a lot of you who have been married a lot longer than me, and you know what I'm talking about. You fall into a pattern, you're comfortable, you guys work in a certain way, and maybe it's not the best way, and that's part of being lazy, is falling into a pattern that's not the best way for your spouse. You know what? Christians, that's your call. You need to live so that you can glorify God through that relationship, which means not being lazy. You got to do the extra work. Even though you've been married 70 years, do the extra work to make sure that relationship is growing in Christ. Right? That's the call. And this idea here is that, to bring it back to the virtuous woman, of course, because this whole thing's talking about the virtuous woman, the virtuous wife. We have a sad place in our society nowadays. We devalue a woman who stays home, right? If God calls you to work, you need to do that, all right? If God calls you out to the workforce, super. If God calls you to stay at home and sacrifice to do that, do that. They're both noble callings of Christ. And we got to stop devaluing one over the other, and stop envying one over the other. And that's the sad part is, people who are called to be in the workforce, women who are, and they think it's not fair that, they think they're missing out by not staying home. If God's called you to the workforce, God will take care of your family. If God's called you to stay home, you have to sacrifice. Don't envy those who have more than you, because that's not your calling. If you're going to stay home mom, that's going to be a sacrifice. You got to do what you got to do to follow that calling. And men, don't value one over the other. A lot of you value money more than the other commodities that a wife will bring. So you got to make sure you are valuing those things. Grandparents, you got to be careful how you talk to your grandchildren and your children and how they live their life. Sometimes I've seen parents pressure a young couple that one needs to work and the other, they both need to be working because they got to make it in this world. Guess what? God will help you make it through. If God's calling you, calling your grandchild, calling your granddaughter, your kids to do it different than you did, help them to seek God in the whole process and stop devaluating whatever they're doing, whether it's going to the workforce or staying at home. Both are equally productive for the family, all right? So you need to make sure you weigh that out and see what God's doing. Encourage people to follow that. Follow what God is calling in that. All right, so I'll get off that soapbox as we'll move on. We're in verse 23 now. Verse 23, if you want to follow along, it says this: Her husband is known in the city gates, where he sits among the elders of the land. She makes and sells linen garments and delivers belts to the merchants. Strength and honor are her clothing, and she can laugh at the times to come. Her mouth speaks wisdom, and loving instruction is on her tongue. She watches over the activities of her husband and is never idle. Right? We got this picture where the husband is at the city gates. Now, this is not like hanging out at the local bar or something. The city gates is where the wise men of the town met, and they did business, and there was legal actions there and legal things happening. And so this is where the husband would hang out, which meant he was a man of honor in town. He was a wise person. And so as the woman pours in the family and helps the man to grow, he is able to do the noble things he is called to do. And he's be able to serve in places he wouldn't be able to serve if he was at home worrying about the home all the time. And we have this beautiful partner relationship here where both partners are coming together and they're fulfilling each other. One is taking care of the home and one is living out in the community as needed. And that idea of the two being one is no longer like me and him doing our own thing, but me and her doing our own thing, but the two coming one. And so as a combined unit, he's able to do this and she's able to do that, and they're able to work together to be this one unit. And too many times I hear, guys say, well, I work during the week and so it's my money. No, you do your half by going to work. She does her half by taking care of the home. The two become one, so it's your money, your work, your household. Sometimes the wife's like, this is my house, I'll do it the way I want it. No, it is both of yours. This is, it's my money, I'll spend it how I want it. No, this is your family's. The two are one. That's the idea of marriage. So if you're dating someone who's that way, it's my money, my way, you need to cut them loose, because that's going to destroy your marriage later on. If you're in that relationship now, you think it's your money and your way, and she thinks it's her house and her way, and you guys are just clashing all the time. You need to sit down and talk it out, work it out, make it one. You got to work it out. That's the idea of marriage. That's the way you need to look. That's how it needs to be. That's the idea here, is that the husband-wife thing is amazing. And so she is known for what she does in the community, what she sells. Everything is quality. He is known for his wisdom of the city gates. They are a team united together. She watches over the activity of the household. She's never idle. The saddest thing I think in American history is two things. And I know the first thing is this, I think, two things that really mess up the family in America were soap operas and Facebook. But, I might have just hurt somebody's feelings there. But anyways, I think that drives us all to be lazy. When the soap operas came out and whenever they came out, people stopped working to watch those things, and it's an easy distraction from everyday life. And it puts things out there that puts together relationships and adventures that entice us to not enjoy our current reality. And Facebook does the same thing. I know we're on Facebook right now, so it's kind of hypocritical, but it can do the same way. We can see pictures of other families and other people's food and other whatevers, and we start thinking that their life is better than ours, and we're no longer satisfied with what we have. And we need to cut it back, say, look, that's laziness. That is being lazy, is looking at other people's lives and thinking they have it better. That is being lazy because you're wasting time you should be spending on investing in yourself and investing in your family, investing in your life. And that's should be the focus. God's called you to something different than them. So stop comparing yourself to them. Get back to the place where God is center, God's center of your life. If you're single, continue with God being center to your life. Stop looking at other people and saying, oh, I wish I had a relationship like that, or I wish I was that person. Make God center of your life. Let him begin there. Build out. Don't be lazy. Work at your household. Work at your family. Work. Maybe it's you and a roommate. Well, work to have unifying there. Work together there. Maybe you're still living with your parents. Are you being lazy? Are you helping the household? Are you working together? Maybe you're retired. How are you using that time together? Are you just doing your hobbies apart from your spouse? Or are you guys working together to grow together, to be one unit together? That's what we all need to seek as and be a part of. And I love this because another thing we really need to address in this is verse 25, where he says, strength and honor are her clothing, right? I had one of those conversations with my daughter the other day. She asked, Dad, why are on all the shows all the guys dress nice and all the girls dress with very little? And we don't watch a lot of the regular TV shows, but explain that one to your daughter. Why do all the guys have a lot of clothes on and all the girls don't? And this is like network TV. I think we only watch like some Titan show or something. We don't watch too many shows. It's mostly cartoons and things like that. What are we teaching our daughters? And I was like, trying to explain that, And sadly, a lot of Christian men support those type of places and support those type of things. And, yeah, I could just go on. Here's the thing. Hollywood and the TV channels, they make what people buy. Christian men, what are you buying? What are you teaching your women and your children and your loved ones about what women should wear and be? And that's the sad part, because right now Christian men are not bold enough to boycott or to avoid those sort of things. So anyway, I'll get off my soapbox. Might have lost a couple of viewers on that one, but here's the idea. Strength and honor should be what we should praise women for. That's what we should praise. This is what Lady is said. She has strength and honor in God. She's a noble character. She cares more about living the life than what she's wearing. Right? That's more important than the fancy clothes she's wearing. Women, yes, your clothes look nice, but are you hiding something underneath your clothes? Are you hiding a deceitful personality? Are you hiding a broken personality? Are you hiding brokenness underneath what you wear and what you put on? And you think that if you put enough makeup and you do your hair just right, that you're going to fool people and this is the sad part. And you do fool people. It just gets you. I'll be honest with you. You can come in and look the part, and we're never going to know. But here's the thing. God knows, and eventually you're going to be found out. Your sins will find you out. You only put so much makeup on before people start learning how your life is, and you need to be known and known as being clothed in strength and honor. Is wisdom coming out of you? Are you seeking wisdom? We talked about that already. Are you doing the hard work to grow in your relationship with Christ, to be that noble person of character, or are you just trying to cover it up? Now, I know I'm wearing a fancy jacket and whatnot. I'm not trying to cover anything up that. But anyway, the idea is that what do you put on the outside? What is that outside? Is it something you're trying to cover up, or are you known for the way you live and the way you act? And that's something we all need to investigate. Are you clothed in dignity and honor and strength? Is that how you're known? Is that how you're known? And is that what you praise in your life? Because that's the other thing, all right? People are watching. Are you praising those people who live that way? Are you praising those people who have godly character? Sometimes jealousy makes us want to talk down about them. Sometimes jealousy and frustration make us not want to follow them and encourage them. We need to make sure we are lifting those people up who have godly character, who are strong and noble, they have dignity, they have honor. We need to point towards those things. Too many times we spend our time pointing out people who don't, we give our attention to those who don't. We're like, oh, they're so horrible. Look at this person, that person, especially as we head into the election time. It's all about negatives and don'ts and horrible things instead of pointing to those things of honor and integrity. And that's what we need to really be pointing out. We need to look for people who are clothed in those things. And we need to praise those things and recognize those things and make those something that is worth focusing on. Because when life comes at you and the person you are with is not clothed in dignity and honor, there's a false front, then when trouble hits, everything's going to fall apart. But someone who is clothed, as it says, clothed in strength and honor and dignity, when hard times come, they're going to be able to laugh and say, oh, we'll make it through. We've done it before. Lord's coming. Lord knows how it's going to go. And we can trust in him. And we need someone who's going to push us towards that. You need to have relationships that push you towards integrity and honor. And we need to all be the person in the relationship that does that. We need to first look for people like that, but two, be the person like that. Be the person who's focused on being clothed in strength and honor and integrity rather than on looking good on the outside. I don't know how many times I see parents discipline their kids because their kids embarrassed them, right? The kid's like, what? I can do this at home, but all of a sudden I can't do it now because you're embarrassed. No. Be someone of honor and integrity. Live it out at home. Live it out at work. Live it out wherever you're at. Be that person, right? I'll get off that soapbox. We're going to try and wrap this up here as we head to an end. We've got verse 28. Verse 28, if you're still with me. You with me? All right. Super. I don't see any comments popping up, so I don't know if my comments got turned off or maybe I'm not even live and I'm just talking to my computer here. We'll see. But anyways, we're in verse 28 right now. It says this: her children rise up and call her blessed. Her husband also praises her. Many women have done noble deeds, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceitful and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord will be praised. Give her the reward of her labor, and let her works praise her at the city gates. This is kind of continuing on what I was just talking about, is that, when you live these things out, that's going to go ahead of you. Our praises, the way we act, our reputation should precede us wherever we go. We shouldn't have to tell people we're a good person. We shouldn't have to tell people we're honest. It should just be something that people know about us. They know we can be trusted. They know who we are. And that's the fascinating thing, being a new pastor, I come in here. And so, when we do things, I don't know who is trustworthy yet or not, or who, shows up late all the time, or who does the assignments you ask them to do. And so everything I do, I'm a little nervous. I'm like, well, is this a trustworthy person? Are they going to do what I asked them to do? Are they going to show up on time? I'm learning those things. But those who've been around and know long enough, they know who's reputable, who's not. Thank you, Floyd. See that pop up, brother. And that's what we need to do. We need to be known, and let a reputation precede us. I love how he says that, she'll be known by her praise. Her works will be praised at the city gates. She'll be known. How are you known in the community? How are you known if I were to go ask about you at the crossroads, or go ask about you, at your place of employment? How would you be known? So it's fascinating. This, we lay out a couple of different ways she finds honor. The first one is this: she finds honor with her children. How do your kids respond to you? If you don't have kids, well, how do your friends respond to you? How do the neighbor kids respond to you? How do the people you don't know respond to you? And that's the idea of kids. Because here's the thing, kids are great, but they're more takers than receivers at that point in their life. I know that's a little hard for some of you to swallow because your precious baby is the most wonderful whatever. But it's a true fact. That's what babies are. Babies are let me say it nicely, they just take. They just take. And they're lovely. I love babies, but they just take it. All they do is receive, and little kids too. They just receive. They receive. They take, 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 take. They can't give you anything. They can't make a mortgage payment for you. They can't do any of that stuff. And so, how do you treat people who can't give stuff to you or do stuff for you? You know, how do you treat them? Are you honored by them because you honor them? Or do you dominate them and do they fear you? So it's a fascinating thing. So next thing is this. She's also praised by her husband, her partner, the one she spends her time with. She is praised by him. How are you praising those people in your life? Those people in your relationship may say, well, my husband or my wife is horrible. Well, guess what? It's your husband or your wife. You need to make sure you're praising them. Look for the good. Look for God is working. Praise the noble things they do. All right? Pray for them. Build them up. Build them up. Build them up. You know, we use the illustration of a marriage is like an old car. And if you don't maintain it, you're probably gonna get annoyed by it and throw it away. You got to be maintaining your relationship. You got to be building. You got to study your wife or your spouse, your husband. You got to make sure you are praising and building them up in the ways they need to be built up. All right. Some guys think that they can just give their wives all kinds of gifts and everything's okay. No, she may need something different. She probably needs something different than just money and gifts. You know, she needs respect and honor. And we need to find out those things that we praise the other person, praise the person in a relationship, praise those partners. You know, maybe you don't have, maybe you're not married yet and you're single. Well, how do you, those relationships in your life, do you praise your parents? You know, you're supposed to honor your father and mother. Are you honoring them? Are you praising your friends and your coworkers? Are you helping building them up? Those are all things to think about. Our next thing is this. She's honored when others recognize her work. If we were to go to your job and look over the last 10 projects you did or the last 10 products you made, would it be something praiseworthy, or would you be embarrassed that you did that? You know, and that's the hard part. Is a lot of times, especially if you work in a factory, I worked in many factories, you're just making piece after piece after piece after piece after piece, the same thing over and over and over again. It's easy to get in a mindset of just, oh, it's just another piece, another go. No, each piece has your name stamped on it. It's in your integrity. You know, if you are truly a person of noble character, are you making everything you do a praise to God? Every piece you make at the factory, is it a praise to God? Every dish you clean at home, is that a praise to God? Every floor you sweep, every yard you cut. You know, I'm not a big fan of cutting the grass. It's just one of my things. I'm just not a big grass cutting fan. I know some people love it. Don't get me wrong. But to me, it's just like, but am I cutting my yard to praise God? Am I known by the work I do? We need to think about that. Let our works recognize how valuable we are. If we're doing it to the best of our ability, or if we are not. That is what falls for us. Next thing is this. She's honored by the nature of her true beauty, right? Her true beauty is what comes out of her. What is the inside coming out? Remember, again, we can have a false front and we can make everyone think we're great on the outside, but what does the inside look like? What is coming out? We need to be praised and honored for those things. And we need to make that what we as people praise and honor, right? We need to make sure that's what we value. Make that an important thing in our relationships, in our church, especially in our church community. You know, we should be praising those things in the people around us. As our church family, we should be praising the young mothers who, you know what, maybe their hair is all funky because they had kids to get ready for church. We need to praise them for them getting the kids to church. You know, we need to be praising the elderly couple who struggled to get here today. Just to walk to the car was a fight. We need to praise and thank them for what they did to get there, instead of complaining. And that happens too much. We don't honor people by what they do. We don't recognize what it took. We just see what's in front of us and we judge. And we do not. We need to pray, say, like, think about it. All right, what did it take for that person to get here? What did it take for this person to do that? What did it take? And we need to praise them for that and encourage them in that. And the last thing is this, and this kind of wraps up the whole book of Proverbs, and hopefully this will not be a surprise to you, is we need to praise and honor people who fear the Lord. Right? That, how many times do we say that that's the beginning of wisdom? Fear of the Lord, that's the beginning part of wisdom, of understanding. When we make Jesus the center of our life, God the center of our life, that means we fear him and we seek his wisdom. We seek him as the foundation. We build everything upon his power and his might and his ability. And we need to praise that in people. When they fear God, we need to support them and be encouraging them. When we see people step out in faith, we need to be supportive instead of critical. We need to be praying for them and praying for God's wisdom and direction in their lives, Lord. And that's the fascinating part there. We need to be doing that as we go. And we need to think about who we recognize and who do we give honor to in situations. And, sometimes we think, well, I didn't do anything to that person. Well, of course you didn't do anything. By ignoring them, well, actually, no, every time you meet someone, you're doing something in their life. All right, let me say it again. Every time you meet somebody, you are doing something to their life. You are either adding to their life or you're taking away from it. All right? Even by your words. You don't even know what you can do to someone else just by complimenting them or looking beyond and trying to see, well, maybe, they're struggling, they need encouragement. Or, how many times we've been blessed by people in the store saying something to us about the way our kids are acting or something, oh, your kids are doing so nice or something like that. Those sort of things we need to be praising and recognizing and encouraging. It sounds like someone's coming through the ceiling above me, so that's not good. But anyways, so that's the idea there. We need to recognize those things, support those things, support the things that are honorable and good, and make sure we're focused on that. So, trying to think if I missed anything. Thank you guys for joining me today. I don't see anything I missed. I think we're good. Next week, we're going to jump into Solomon. Song of Solomon. It is Song of Songs. We're going to start in chapter 2. If you want to read ahead, we'll be in chapter 2, digging into relational foundations. Now, this book's about a relationship between a man and a woman, a marriage relationship. This is a great example for all of us to be looking into, even though maybe you're not married or maybe you're not dating or maybe you're too young or you're old and retired or you're widowed. You may think, oh, it's not for me. No, there's godly wisdom in here. It can teach us how to help other people, how to build godly relationships. I think that's something we lack in this society, is that encouragement of young godly relationships. And so even if you've been married, 50 years, it's still going to be a good book to help us to refine and grow. Or maybe you're widowed and you've been there. It's a good way for you to learn and help other people to grow. Don't think you're not of value just because you're old. Because you're not. You've experienced. Old does not mean old. Old means experienced. I know that was a kind of weird saying. But anyway, you've been through a lot. Whether you did it right or wrong, as we study this book, you can point out if you did it right, how it went well, and you can teach other people. If you did it wrong, you can tell people how you did it wrong and how you wish you would have done it this way. So there's a lot you can learn from the Song of Solomon. I encourage you to tune in with us as we dig into that and go further. But I'm going to pray and close this, and then you guys are dismissed for today. We got our worship service at 10:15, so hopefully you can tune in. Hopefully we don't have any more internet issues like we did last week. But if not, we'll try and get it done. So let's pray, and you'll be dismissed for today. Father God, just thank you for this time we can spend together. Thank you for a chance to study your word, Lord. I pray that you guide us and direct us as we try and live out a life that glorifies you. Lord, help us to recognize and honor those around us who live out noble characters. Help us to value godly and noble characters in our church, in our family, in our life, in our community, Lord. Guide us, direct us, Lord, and lead us. We ask this all in your holy and precious name, and amen. All right, thanks for joining us again. Hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you later.